Ladies and gents, welcome to the first video here on the Pole Position channel. Excited for this one here. Race 1, Albert Park. It's at a reasonable hour here in Australia, so cannot wait to get into the... And obviously the new regs, new cars, and hopefully some better racing. I'm a little bit worried about that, but we'll get into that one later in this video here. It's the Race 1 Albert Park predictions video. I know it's going to be a little bit late. I plan in the future to get this a little bit more organised, but a lot been going the last few days, so cannot wait to get in this one here. We'll be talking about pole position, first, second and third in the race, giving the good and then the ugly in the race, so someone that might surprise us and do well, someone's going to underwhelm us, so there'll be a team or individual, and then I'll finish off with a random prediction. I've seen it for the P1 podcast, guys. I love that shout, just a random prediction from the grid outside of the top three, and then a storyline that I think will happen on race day. Let's go to the top. Pole position tomorrow, I think it's going to be Max Verstappen. I think, look, it might sound surprising. They're not going to have the quickest car, and they never really do, it feels like, at Red Bull. But I think Max Verstappen, we saw it in FP1, the consistency throughout that session there. And he has the ability, he has raw pace. He can find a way in any situation to work that way to the front. I think that Red Bull car over one lap will have enough. Over the race distance, I think is going to be the real problem for the Red Bull team, the Red Bull Forward engine. I've been impressed with how consistent it's run, and I touch wood, I might have put the ringer on him there, but I really think that engine, the power, and just Max's ability to get the most out of a car over one lap, I think we'll see him put it on pole position. You know, competitors like Kimi Antonelli, like Oscar Piastri, and obviously like George Russell are going to be up there, absolutely. But I just think the ruthlessness and the ability that he drives on the edge that Max Verstappen has, I think will be the difference in this one. So I've got him to take out pole position. As I said, there's going to be a lot of competition. I was very impressed with Oscar Piastri in FP2. I've watched that one back there. We obviously know what the Mercedes is going to be like. Their race pace is going to be ridiculous. That car looks maybe a good tenth or so, even 2/10 quicker. But I just think when it matters most, Max Verstappen doesn't make mistakes. And I think that's where George Russell, Antonelli and company will have to learn as the season goes on. They've got the quickest car, but can they consistently put together a really good lap? That is going to be the question we're going to have to ask ourselves. So Max Verstappen, for me, chucks it on pole position. We now come to the finishing top three, the podium finishes for race 1 at Albert Park. And I think it's really, really hard to tell. We've got a lot of good teams up there. We've seen what Ferrari did in FP1. We know the talent and the quality of Mercedes. We know that Max Verstappen, I think, is going to be up there. I think he's going to finish qualifying on pole, so he'll be in and amongst it. And I guess foreshadowing what's going to come on later, I don't think it's going to be that easy to pass once again at Albert Park, especially with these cars not seeming to look to be too competitive over the race distance. We'll have to wait and see. But we'll start at P3. I think Oscar Piastri ends up in P3. There is that Australian curse. I know Australians won their home Grand Prix. We know what happened last year with Oscar Piastri spinning it at the penultimate corner there. I think he'll have a good race. I don't think he'll qualify too well. I really was impressed with Piastri's qualifying last season. I thought that was probably one of his strongest suits as the season went on in the end. I think I came to the season thinking his race pace is better than Norris, and over the large periods of the season it was, but in the back end of the season where he actually was struggling, I thought his one lap pace was actually much better than what I'd seen from him in the past. So I think he'll have a solid qualifying, maybe P4, even P3 or P5. I don't think he'll be in the top two, and I think he'll hold. I really think there'll be a lack of overtaking outside of the sort of first few laps. I think in the end he finishes in P3. I think I'll be quite happy with that. I think the McLaren, look, it's solid, but I think it's slightly off the pace at this current point in time. So I do see him up into P3 in this race. Yeah, I think that'll be a solid start for this McLaren side. I think we'll build into the season. Same as Red Bull. I think these two teams will get better the season goes on. I think Ferrari and Mercedes are going to start and try and make that initial burst. P2, after keeps in continuity, Max Verstappen for me, P2. I think that car is not going to be great over the race distance. I think it's going to struggle. I think the tyre degradation and the ability to stay with the leaders and stay with the lead pack and hold that gap over the race distance will be a problem. But I think at Red Bull, their strategies, their pit stops, and Max's ability to make that car three car widths wide is going to be the difference in this one here. I think he'll be able to hold on to position and keep attackers at bay, whether it be an Oscar Piastri, whether it be a Charles Leclerc, a Kimi Antonelli, a George Russell, a Lewis Hamilton. I just think he has the ability, once again, in race pace, just to hold on and hold position at times. I think he'll lose it off the line. I don't think that car starts particularly well. We know how well the Ferrari starts, and we know that Mercedes just look good everywhere right now. But I just think Verstappen has it in him. He has the quality. He has that persistence. He has that aggressiveness to hold position. So I've got to have him in P2. And that means for me, P1 is going to be George Russell. No shocks there. I think that Mercedes car is ridiculous over a long race distance. I think the straight line speed of that thing is really, really impressive as well. But most importantly, through the corner, through the tight sections, he will just gap that Red Bull Ford car. And look, he hasn't had a crazy weekend. He had a really, really solid FP2, a decent FP1. But I just think, again, race distance, race pace, tyre deg. It seems to be a decently warm day planned in Melbourne for Sunday, but we know Melbourne weather is inconsistent. But I just think that car, where in the past they really liked the cool conditions and struggled in the hot conditions, we're seeing how well they've performed so far in the pre-season tests, and we've seen how well this car has developed over the off-season. There's a reason why everyone sees them as a good 2 to 3 tenths quicker. I don't think it'll be that extravagant. It might be 1.5 tenths, maybe pushing 2 tenths, but I don't see them being 3 or 4 tenths head of the field. So I think he stretches the lead and has a massive lead. I know Kimi will look to come through the pack. I haven't got him in this top 3, but I just think the experience of finding the top of Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen. I haven't even mentioned Lando Norris has had a tough start with his car problems in FP2, but there's some big names in and around the top, and I just think that Kimi Antonelli will build his way into the season, and I just don't think he'll be in amongst the top 3, but I think George Russell will qualify him at P2, P3, get the leaders off the line. I think he'll lead for the rest of the race. I just think it's going to be a really cruisy race for him, and I reckon he's unchallenged at the top of the grid unless he has some sort of crazy mistake in the pits or we have changing conditions. George Russell, number 1 for me. All right, we have a pole position. We've had the top 3 finish on the podium. Now it's time for the good. And I think in this race, it's going to be Arvid Lindblad. Super impressed with what he's put together so far, finishing P5 and FP2, looking quite quick. And look, that Racing Bulls car, I thought would be quite sluggish. I thought the Ford engine would hamper the side, but they've looked really, really racy. They've looked really, really solid. Liam Lawson putting in some good laps as well. We've seen that they've been putting a lot of work in the preseason test. That Ford engine, as I said, I don't want to put the ringer on them, but looking really, really good at this current point in time. And I just think there's a real opportunity if Arvid Lindblad looks really, really quick around this Albert Park circuit. I think he'd really cause some problems in the race. I think we could be looking at a high points finish, potentially a P8, maybe even a P7 if he gets things going his way. He qualifies high up the grid. As I keep reiterating, I don't think overtaking is going to be very easy and it's going to be a real struggle. But if he's putting it way up the grid amongst the sort of top half in the practice sessions, if he can string together a really solid lap, get into Q3, qualifying P8, and then just hold that position. Really, really solid points for a Racing Bull side that I thought would be competing, behind or potentially alongside a Haas or an Alpine team, but they might be much higher than we initially thought. You've obviously got Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren as the big 4. That's 8, spots already, but I think you could creep into the 8 there and cause some problems if maybe the Ferrari is slightly off pace or poor strategy there, or Lando Norris had a tough few days on Friday. We could see Arvid Lindblad climb up into some of the big points paying positions. It's going to be hard this season to get points outside of that top 4 sides because they're taking up a large portion of the grid. And to get early points this season and multiple points in race 1 would be massive for his confidence and massive for the Racing Bull side. So I've got Arvid Lindblad as the good from this weekend. From the good to the ugly, I think it's going to be quite a tough weekend for Williams, and in particular Carlos Sainz had a really tough weekend last season, obviously spinning out in these changeable conditions and unable to finish the race. Had a really poor start to life at Williams last season. We thought Williams would be that sort of 5th team knocking on the door, the 4th quickest team, but they've really looked far off it. Had a decent Friday, but I think he's going to be struggling and stuck in the pack at the tail end of the midfield towards the back markers. And when you got back markers like Valtteri Bottas, like Sergio Perez, like Nico Hülkenberg, is a lot of talent back there, a lot of good races. And Carlos Sainz is a great racer himself, but it's going to be hard to pass. And if you're stuck in a car that can't really do it on the straights and not as agile on the corners against these sort of mobile chicanes like the Cadillac and like the Audi car looks like it might be a really long day for Carlos Sainz, a really long day for Williams in general, but I'm picking out Carlos Sainz as the ugly because his expectation, I think, will be quite high coming to this season. I think he'll want much better than what he'll get on Sunday. So I've got Carlos Sainz as the ugly from this weekend. We now come to the random prediction, and I chucked it in the randomizer on Google, and I got 11th. So just outside the points for this one here. And I think it's going to be a really, really hard one to predict with a lot of teams in and around it. Will likely have the position and the timing of pit stop have a massive impact this season due to just the amount of cars on the track. We're planning for 22. Will we get Aston Martin out? I don't know, but pit stops and positioning and timing of pit stops will be important, especially for this midfield pack if you want to jump in to the top 10 in the points position. So P11, I thought was really, really difficult to start the season off. I have gone with Ollie Behrman, though. I think he'll be the quickest Haas car. I think he's shown signs of the preseason. He's matured and become a more consistent driver. We saw the back end of last season, the quality he's got in behind that Haas car there. And I think that Haas car is looking quite solid over the race distance. I think it'll cause some problems in those sort of higher speed type circuits. We haven't got that here at Albert Park, but I think it'll be enough on that back straight with these now activation zones for overtake mode and utilizing energy store. I think it's going to be suited to the Haas car and how quick it can be in the straight with that Ferrari engine. So I've got the random prediction of P11 being Ollie Behrman. I think he's got some good race pace. He knows his way around this circuit now. It's on his first rodeo here, and he's looking better and better as the races go on. So Ollie Behrman for me is my random P11 prediction for Sunday. We now come to the big storyline, and for me, I think the big storyline will be Ferrari will be quickest over the race pace, but struggle to overtake as a theme of this race here. I really think we're going to get disappointed. I didn't want to say this come race one, but I think it's going to be one of those seasons where, yes, regulations change, and yes, you have these sort of overtake modes and energy store uses and the manual override mode, but I do think it's going to be tough to overtake. In particular, Albert Park, I hate that it's becoming one of those circuits that's hard to overtake because it's the home circuit for us Australian fans. It's in our time zone. It means something to us Australian fans, but each year we get disappointed by this circuit. I think once again we might get disappointed in this race here. I think Ferrari will look really, really quick over the race, but I think Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc will look to do their best to try and make up positions. As I said, I think the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, and the McLarens might pit them in qualifying, but I think over the race distance, Ferrari will look the quickest. We know how quick they are off the line. We know how quick they are on the straights as well, but I just don't think that these cars in this current track will do enough to allow them to overtake. I think they'll get stuck amongst those big four sides. And if one of them don't qualify well, I think Lewis Hamilton might struggle in qualifying. I'm feeling a P8 qualifying for him. I think we could see them get stuck in the pack and not able to show their true quality and have to wait till China next week. So that's my storyline. I think Ferrari will look the quickest over the distance. I think Mercedes will have the raw race, the raw quick pace. But I think over the race, in terms of holding tires, in terms of staying consistent lap after lap, and the quality on high deg tires, I think Ferrari will end up looking the quickest side, but unable to show that just due to the inability for overtaking in this race here. I hope it doesn't come true, but I have a feeling it might happen in this one here. That's just my thought. That's my storyline for this one here. And that is all my predictions for Albert Park Race 1 for the Formula 1 2026 season. Got pole Max Verstappen. I got the podium of Piastri in third. Second place Max Verstappen, George Russell in first. The good being Arvid Limbard. The ugly being Carlos Sainz. My random prediction, P11, I've got Ollie Behrman. And then my storyline being Ferrari look the quickest in race pace, but unable to overtake as a general theme of things in this first race here. But let me know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section down below. Welcome to the Pole Position channel, the first video here, putting prediction videos, or as best as possible, be doing live streams of the qualifying and race days as the season goes on, and we're doing race reviews come the Monday or Tuesday, giving some time to look back at what happened on the Sunday. Thanks for joining me, guys. Make sure to like, comment, please subscribe, and share this channel with people who'd be interested in it. Can't wait for this season. Formula 1 2026. It has a lot of prospects of being exciting. Hopefully it delivers race 1 here at Albert Park. Make sure to join me. I'm doing the live watch along for quali on Saturday for Albert Park. Unable to do the Sunday race due to conflict, but I'll be reviewing the race come Monday afternoon. So make sure to stay tuned into the pole position channel here. With that being said, guys, enjoy the weekend's action. I'll see you guys in the video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. I'll see you guys later.